Welcome to the bench, a space for conversations that help us uncover our truest self. No masks, no judgment, just love. My name's Rob, and I'm joined today by my brother Luke, coming to us from Quincy, Massachusetts. Luke, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I first met Rob uh, in Tibet. That's where I got to know him. Lived with him for a couple of weeks, and I knew that after this trip, long trip, I'm either gonna be very tight with this guy, or I'm not gonna vibe with him at all. And luckily, uh, very tight with you, and love what you're doing, and I'm honored to be on the podcast.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, man. I feel like this is the 25th episode, which kind of feels like a milestone, I guess. 25 is like quarter of a century. I feel like it's like a milestone episode. And yeah, I just had Sam on the podcast last week, and he was one of the first people that really kind of like got it. Play, explore, love is like the business and that idea, um, and where that was coming. But like you really got a lot of like the formulations of it in Tibet, and us sitting there and like just talking about life and exploring, really, which is kind of the topic for our conversation today, of this idea of just exploring life and being open to things and kind of going where it takes you. Like that trip to Tibet,
Yeah,
you met Andrew, who I've also had on the show.
yeah,
You met Andrew just walking on the street because you had a basketball, and he's like, "Hey man, you hoop?" And then you became friends. And then Andrew and I met through a guy named Chad, and like we reconnected in New York, and I just happened to go play basketball with him around the same time. And then he happened to ask us both about this trip to Tibet that we both happened to go on, and then
wild.
here we are. And like they were halfway across the world playing basketball at 10,000 feet, like learning with totally new people and culture and experiences, and uh all just, yeah. How did it, like, with
Yeah,
no plan, right? I think that's the thing,
serendipity.
that like just totally serendipitous. There was no plan for it. There was no like, oh, I need to do this thing. It was just, okay, this is the step that's presenting it, or like this is one of the many doors that's presenting itself to me
Yeah,
right now. And all right, let's walk through it, man. That's cool. And that was a hell of a trip.
hell of a trip. Yeah, that was one of the craziest. How that all came together. It still blows my mind. Um, yeah, literally just walking out of my door and just happened on New York and just happened to cross paths. The timing was perfect. Had a ball in my hand, and yeah, it's that's what makes life pretty wonderful, and I'm glad I was in a space where I was like receptive to even have a conversation with a stranger. I'm grateful for that because I haven't always been that way. Um, but yeah,
Well, there are some, there in the mystic schools of thought. Uh, the idea is that the soul, like our truest being, our innermost being, like, comes into this body with a purpose, with a karma, like to run off, or like a certain set of missions that need to be accomplished. And the our life is like this beautifully designed curriculum in order to do those things, and our life is inherently this unfolding towards this purpose that we're here for. The difference is, which role we take in this unfolding. So I was reading the other day, this Sufi teacher Hazrat Inayat Khan was talking about like the idea of a pot being made, or like a vessel out of clay,
mm,
you know, and how the clay and the potter both work towards the vessel's unfolding, right? Both work towards the making of this thing, but the clay is just made. It's just, it's just kind of there. It's just formed into this thing, and the potter actually enjoys the experience. The potter gets to shape the experience. The potter gets to be a part of the experience. And I think you know, for me, because we all have faith in something, and I think for me, I take faith in that like this world isn't an inherently bad or evil or dark or like place. It's just here for our unfolding, and I think it's like how we choose to look in those moments, and are we the clay and all this stuff is just happening to us, or are we the potter and we're enjoying it and we're taking the next step and we're like scientists just exploring the world and trying to make sense of it, and yeah, get in alignment with what it is we really want, uh yeah, underneath it all.
Yeah, I like that metaphor. Um, yeah, I've been thinking about like what it means. Like obviously exploring. I actually looked up the definition. Like as obvious as it seems, but it's to learn in detail. And I never really would have put it like that. But like my question to you is like, how does the concept of explore, how does that manifest, and like in what ways does that manifest for you?
I think when we come out of the womb, there's a certain curiosity that is innate in all of us. This wondering of what light is, what sound is, what touch is, what feel is, you know. And then we start to grow up and there's more curiosity. Oh, what's that thing? Oh, that's a dog. Oh, that's a cow. Oh, that's a tree. Oh, that's a cloud. You know? And then what are these feelings? What's puberty? You know, oh my God. Like, there's always this kind of curiosity as we grow up that's kind of innate in our being. And so it feels to me like that exploration is yeah, very natural, I think. And when we look at the world in general, the only thing that's consistent is change. That things are constantly changing. Even our bodies are changing day by day. You know, one day I have a pimple, one day I don't. I lose hairs. Like, like as minute as the change might be, there's always change happening. There's always evolution happening. Um, you know, and so I think there's a lot. My friend Betsy actually posted something about this on her Instagram the other day, and talking about like doing things that are sustainable and finding practices that are sustainable, and like gets a lot of buzz in the kind of popular circles, but really we aren't meant to sustain. Anything that's sustaining is dying. Anything that's living is growing, right? It's always moving, it's always changing, it's always evolving. It's
Mm.
not sustaining. It may sustain for a moment, but not for a long time, because it needs to evolve and it needs to grow. And so I think like there's this when we live from the ego and we live in alignment with our mind and we live in alignment with what the world tells us in this space of certainty and this like desire to know, then we, I think, lose our curiosity because you can never fully know. But when we tap into that natural state and we remember that we've always been curious, there's always been this curiosity there, regardless of anything that we've been doing. And we start to tap into that more. Yeah, life just becomes so much more interesting, at least in my experience. Because it becomes, it's like, yeah, it's not so much, you know, the clay isn't exploring as it is being made into the pot. The clay is just being made into the pot. And I think a lot of us go through our days, myself included in the past, go through our days just being the clay, you know, and the thing is just happening to us. And
Yeah.
maybe we end up looking like a good pot or not, but you know, it's just happening. And you know, the shift isn't that we stop making the shift isn't that we stop becoming the pot. It's just we don't identify as the clay anymore. We don't identify as our body and our mind and all these egoic things that want this certainty and want to know. And we start to become the potter. We start to get back in touch with that like natural part of our essence and our being that is also co-creating this thing and is still working to create the pot, but is enjoying it and exploring it and feeling the grooves and learning it in detail. You know, the clay can't learn something in detail. The clay is just, it's just there. Only the potter can learn in detail.
Yeah, I think detail is a key word. Um, and it got me thinking about actually Kobe, because he used to do like the detail segments.
Mm.
I love those, and he would just break it down. And one of my favorite things was the project he did with Spike Lee. I forget what year it was, but him and Spike, might have been like 2010. They broke down. It was actually after he played that game against the Spurs in the Staples Center. After that game, he met up with Spike, and they broke down that entire game. And they had like a ton of like unbelievable cameras and like different angles that usually don't capture in like a standard, even like TNT basketball game. And they got audio and everything, like Kobe talking to his teammates, like every little detail of the game, and Kobe was breaking down everything. And it was one of my favorite things, especially like I love basketball, so like even like I told one of my friends who isn't huge into basketball or like unsure about it, I go, watch that. After you watch that, you will 100% know whether you like basketball or don't like it. And that's something I really appreciated about Kobe, is that he was such a junkie about ball. And even today, I watched Jordan. He gave a speech at that memorial in the Staples Center, and it was a great speech. I don't know if he caught that, but that's the proper way to mourn someone. And he even found a way to get a laugh out of the crowd, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah. I think what you said, I want to go back to what you were saying with like that detailed video and Kobe looking at the game of basketball. And like you asked me, how does explore kind of come up in my own life? It actually has showed up in two different ways. So I talked about kind of that natural curiosity, and I've always had this curiosity that, like I said, I think we all do to differing degrees. And for a long time, that curiosity was really put out into the world, like understanding all of these intricacies of the game and how the things happen and why they work. And I used to date a girl, like every time we drive across a bridge, I'd be like, hey, I wonder how they built this bridge. Like, this is so, you know, she was like, are you going to ask this every freaking time we like, oh, she used to get so mad at me. But what really changed for me was when I started thinking, and we've had lots of conversations about this, like, if there's so much intricacy and detail out here, like just in a game of basketball, and there's so many different angles and levels to it and layers to it to break it down, and you're never really going to get to the heart of it, how much could there be inside of me that I haven't really looked at yet?
Right.
Because the truth is, I've spent all my life looking at all the stuff out there, and I've explored the forest for a really long time, but I haven't explored the tree. You know, that is I, or me, if I were trying to rhyme there. But, and I think that was really the shift for me, was like, I'm going to explore myself, and I'm going to look within. And like, as my tattoo says, ne te quae severis extra, do not seek outside yourself. And that's really where I can't tell all the stories on here, but you know my life, and people have heard stories on here. Like, I have very much externally been an explorer the last 4 years, 5 years, like 6. I mean, my whole life, I've always been exploring and trying new things and wanting to wander and like going new places. But none of that exploration did anything for me other than brought me to the place where I finally realized that I had to explore inside myself. I ended up getting to that place through the means of all of this outer exploration. But the place that I got to was the same that I think anybody ends up in this journey of like self-discovery and unfoldment that is, trying to do it consciously, is like, okay, I got to look within. There's no answers out there that are truly going to tell me the truth, because there's nothing out there that isn't skewed in some way, right? I mean, everything is like, we talk about, there's this quote that I love. That's what's normal, like normal is an illusion. So what's normal to the spider is chaos to the fly.
Hmm.
And we really do. I think life is like, we spend so much time, and schools spend so much time, and our parents spend so much time teaching us like what normal is and what either their or society's conception of normal is. And yeah, I think if we do nothing else, take some time to explore what your conception of normal is.
Hmm.
Like, it might be the same, but it might not be, and it might be deeper, and it might be, who knows what it's going to be. But I think it's like, what I realize, there's a lot of, Juliana and I actually have been talking about this a lot lately, because like 4 years ago, for those who don't know the story, um, I was teaching high school math, coaching high school basketball, dating a really nice girl. Like, my life looked exactly how it was supposed to look. I went to Vanderbilt, got a good education, walked on the basketball team. I mean, everything looked exactly how the world told me it was supposed to look. But I wasn't happy. And I didn't know what to do, because I was at this crossroads. I was at this space where it was either continue to live the life that I know and the thing that I've always known my whole life and been told is what is right and what is supposed to be, and trust that one day it'll make me happy and I'll feel what I think I'm supposed to feel, or don't, and go do something different. And what that something different was, who knows? For me, it was to go quit everything and run to solitude and hang out with my brother and explore myself. For somebody else, it might be going to a different job. Sam and I talked last week about, like, one of the things he noticed was that in the space he was in, he just wasn't happy and it wasn't fulfilling him. And so he left. And I think what exploring truly has done for me is is this idea of being an explorer, and this idea of being somebody who explores courageously, and that being something that I really embody, allows me the courage to walk off the path that I know, when I know that this path is no longer for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a confusion in me for a long time, that I felt like being an explorer meant that I always needed to be wandering, and I always needed to be searching, and I always needed to be moving around. I've since learned that that's not true, at least the way I see it. I think more what an explorer means is that I am open to each moment. Not that I have to go looking, like in Harry Potter or whatever. You don't need to go looking for the danger, but be ready for it. Like, Harry's ready for it. I mean, maybe he goes and looks for it a little bit too, but like, I think it's just one of those deals where it's like, when there's something to explore, when something else arises, I'll explore it. I'm riding down the road, and, oh, that looks interesting. Let me look at it for a second. Maybe I explore it for a second. Maybe it catches my interest. Maybe I'd explore it a little longer. And I'm open to that, but I don't have to do it. And I think on a bigger level, it's like, more than anything, it's just about exploring ourselves. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the only thing that we have had our whole life through all of the things. It's the only thing that's been consistent is this body, is this mind, is this vessel that we travel in. And yet how little we spend looking at it and questioning it and studying it and examining it. We spend all this time studying the world and philosophy of others and science and all of that's great. I mean, I love school. I love learning. But none of it matters without the knowledge of the self. It's just, seek ye
So
first the kingdom
my
of God.
my next my next question for you, going off that last part, is like, what are some of the techniques you have for self-discovery?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing meditation is one.
Yeah, the first is meditation for sure. Absolutely. And I say, and I think sometimes meditation can get much like yoga. I think it can be, and I have heard it been misconstrued. Not to say that my definition of it or like my, opinion of it is like the way, but it's something that I'll offer, in this space that may be a little bit different than I think what mainstream would say. Like meditation is a way of life. Like our life in the ideal, our life is meditation. Our life is yoga. We don't meditate or do yoga. We are those things because our life is in perfect union with the ideal and this purpose that we were here to do. Right? We're always doing something, I think, right? The tree is growing, the rabbit's running around, the grass is growing, the dirt is decomposing, the sun rises, the sun sets, the moon turns. We grow, we pick up the phone, we move this thing over there. There's always something that's going on. And it's, are we doing it unconsciously or consciously? And then, on that journey of doing it, I lost my train of thought there.
That pottery metaphor is clicking for me now, even more so.
Yeah.
Just based off, what you're saying is like, regardless of what we do, the sun will rise, the sun will fall. It's kind of like the pot's gonna continue to spin.
Right. Yeah. Every day the pot's going to spin, are we going to be spun or are we going to do the spinning? I think is really what the idea of being the explorer is. And it's not in that, like I was saying earlier, like it's not that we have to go out to do that. Like one of the ways that I explore is sending emails to people that are sometimes a little confrontational, and I getting uncomfortable in that space, being courageous in that space. One of the ways I explore is in cooking new foods, to feed myself and getting a juicer and like, taking care of my body. One of the ways I explore is in like building community and like trying to get into these new spaces. But like it really, yeah, it's it's all just, we're all just walking some road, man. I think that's the thing is like you said, like the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set and the moon's going to rise, and the moon's going to turn and all these things are going to happen and we're going to grow and, this moment's going to come and the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And it's, for us, like how consciously do we explore those moments and how much are we actually here in those things? Because and I really think like that's why, like in the program, which actually by the time that this is live will be live on the website, which is exciting.
Wow.
So if you're listening to this and you're interested in a program to help you uncover your truest self and kind of practice the types of things that we're talking about, check out playexplorelove.com and just look for the online program tab and just check it out. Love to have you be a part of that. But one of the things is like, we don't start with exploring. We start with play. because there is sort of this, you can't explore without being here. Like there needs to be this sort of playfulness with it, this curiosity of it. Like exploring for the sake of exploring is just wandering. You'll walk forever, you know you'll walk forever. You don't know what you're looking for. You don't know why you're going. Yeah, go be an explorer. You'll wander forever. I think where we start is in this curiosity, this natural curiosity, this childlike interest, finding those things that we're interested in and starting to look there, because we know, right? I think that's like the first thing is my whole life up until I left, I tried to live based on what I thought other people expected of me, and what I then deemed to be the world's expectations, both kind of a mixture of my own and other people's and society's. And then I read this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, it said, "It's easy in the world to live by the world's opinion. It's easy in solitude to live by your own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." And I was like, solitude. That's really interesting. I don't know why, but it's really interesting. And I'm going to play with that. That's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Where I am isn't it. I know that for a fact. Here's something that interests me. It's solitude. Why was it solitude? I don't know. Could be anything. But for me, it was solitude. Cool. I'm going to go play with that. And then in playing with that, you kind of learn, I think for me, the next step, and this is kind of how the program's designed, is then learning how to be where you are, and being in this moment. Because once you are in this moment, you can kind of start to see beyond the duality of it all, and you can start to accept that it's all okay. And once we accept that it's all okay, then we're not so attached to all of these things out here and what it looks like and what we're doing and what it means and all the stories about it. And so then we can explore a little more courageously. But we realize that it's really not actually about exploring out there, because we need to look within first. And that's where the real exploration is done. And anything that's happening out here is just things that are giving us stuff to chew on, Like there was a moment, I think I shared this in one of my earlier podcasts, about like starting Play, Explore, Love and feeling like Juliana didn't have faith in me because she kept questioning things. And she kept like kind of wanting timelines, and I didn't have timelines. And I was like, just have faith. And there's this external thing happening, right, that needs to be resolved and is going on in the world. And like, there's all types of ways to explore that and how to interact with that, and like all types of people skills, which are great. And that's awesome. And there are a lot of great people that can teach you those things. But none of those people skills matter if we don't also look inward at and get clear with ourselves about what's causing some of the friction. And the reality was, when I started to look at, okay, she doesn't have faith in you. Why does that make you angry? Well, I don't know. Maybe I wish that she did. Okay, well, why? Well, maybe I want her to have faith in me because I don't fully have faith in her. Okay, well, and it's pointing the whole time to the spaces in me that don't have faith in myself. And that doesn't mean that I don't need to address the external thing about like, hey, I'm feeling upset that you don't have faith in me, and like we're partners and we're in this together, and I wish that you would. And I did that. But it's also something for me to churn. It's also something for me to explore. And that's when it really becomes, like we talked at the beginning of like your life becoming your curriculum. It only is a curriculum, and it only is for our unfolding if we are explorers in this way, and if we are open to it, and if we are like accepting of what is, allowing it to all be okay, and then just looking within. No matter what's happening out here, how am I responding to it? That doesn't mean we stop trying to change out here, or stop growing, or stop like, our jobs or doing anything. That's for you to figure out. but it's just taking more time to look at how we relate to everything that we're doing, you know.
Yeah, it's just to touch upon what you just said. I'm guessing it seems like an idea of like someone having faith or trust in you or anyone just in general. I'm not talking specifically about you. Um, it's almost a privilege. It's almost like a luxury. Like that's what it seems like. Um, because like you said, it's almost like, do I have trust in myself or don't I? And if I have trust in myself, I don't necessarily need trust from or faith from an outside source. Is that what you're getting at? Am I?
Kind of. Yeah. You know, and I think, well, I guess what I'm getting at is like that is part of it. I think, I mean, that's kind of a different conversation, because yes, I would say that like um you can't have my previous relationship before Juliana. She loved me, the woman that I left to go out to California. She loved me immensely, and I loved her. I really did. And we really great woman and taught me a lot, and like we had a really cool relationship. But I did not love myself, and therefore I looked to her for love. And like that needed to be addressed, you know, like I needed to clean that up. I needed to do that work. Like that was the most important thing. And I think along that way, along that like journey of doing that work, then, you know, yeah, like things like I've learned more about myself, and I've explored more, and I've like, you know, and one of the things like what I was kind of talking about with that example is like that everything that is happening is feedback for ourselves to learn more and become more conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think truly like the difference between being the clay and being the potter is, as Hazrat Inayat Khan says, it's in the consciousness. The difference is in the consciousness. Both are working towards the unfolding of this pot. Both are working towards the unfolding of this, you know, creation. The potter is conscious in its creation, and the clay is not.
Mm.
And for me, it's about life. The most important thing is practicing being conscious. And that's what meditation is. Meditation is the practice of being conscious in the moment. We practice on the mat because it's the easiest place to start, you know, a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time, because it's a quiet space and there's nothing going on, you know. But eventually you could sit on that. I know people, or I mean, you've heard stories of people who sit on that mat for 4 hours, meditate, 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 meditate. Walk out, someone cuts them off in the street. Fuck you, da da da. What happened to your meditation, bro? Love and compassion, right? Like centeredness. Where'd that go? And I like, so I like to think of life as a game, like basketball, right? Like, and I think that's where it's so interesting of like the intricacies of basketball and peeling apart the intricacies of life. But life is a game, just like basketball, right? And we're always playing it. Like we're always playing this game. We get better at the game of basketball by learning how to shoot. So we practice shooting. But if that practice doesn't translate to the game, what does it matter? I think that's the same thing with meditation and life. Our life is a game in which we are better the more conscious we are. Meditation is like shooting, is a way that kind of outside of the game, we can practice being conscious. But ultimately, the goal is not to be able to meditate. The goal is to be conscious. The goal is to be the potter. The goal is to be in this life, to join the dance, to be completely the truest version of yourself and show up each morning the way that the ideal version of yourself would show up. And then giving yourself a ton of love and grace if you fall short. And then just doing that every day and letting it become what it becomes, letting life unfold how it unfolds. Because the reality is, like, yeah, we talked at the beginning about plans, and like, I don't know the plan for my life. When did I ever, like the ultimate plan? Because I didn't choose, like my mind, we weren't like, hey, let's come here. It was like, wow, hey, whoa, here we are. What the fuck? Like, how do we get here? that was a crazy trip. I dreamed that I was in a womb for 9 months, and now whoa.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Like, that is our trip. That is our existence. Every single one of us, regardless of what title we wear, parents, mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, teacher, friend, lover, whatever. Everybody somehow wound up here, and nobody really knows why. Like, not to get too far out, but like, in a literal sense, from a like logic explanation space,
nothing's been proven.
No one knows why. No one knows how. No one knows where does it come from. And so we turn to religion, we turn to mysticism, we turn to these kind of more esoteric, like intuitive faculties. And what do all of them say? They all say, just love. God is within. That you're here for a purpose, a beautiful purpose. Allow it to unfold. How do we allow it to unfold? We play with it. We are in the present moment. We accept that it's all okay. We look within and we continually look at this personality and this tree that we are, because it might be real, but it's not true. It's just this vessel that we travel in, and it has as many quirks and peculiarities as any other thing that we look at. And the more aware of those things we are, not from a place of judgment, not from a place of, oh my God, I can't believe that I have a tendency of always putting other people's needs first, of like thinking about what they, want more than what I want. Not a bad person for that. It's just something to be aware of. Mm-hmm. It helps me being aware of that, because going into my wedding next weekend, I told Juliana, I was like, yo, as soon as we get on that plane to Miami, I don't give a fuck about anybody else, but you and me having a weekend that celebrates the two of us. And everybody else will be there, and they will have a wonderful experience, or they will not. We've done all that work. We've set it all up for these 3 days in our honeymoon. It is just us. And so it's that awareness doesn't, like, I think sometimes gets treated as, I used to be afraid of it, because it's like, oh my God, I'm looking at these things about myself, and the world tells me that this, the standard is at 100 and I'm doing things at 67, and oh my God, I'm so terrible. But what I realized was, who the fuck are they to tell me what the standard is? And when you don't live by their expectation, a 67 is fucking great, because maybe yesterday I was at a 60. So hell, I'm cool with a 67. Y'all can keep your hundreds. 67 is awesome. Fuck you for telling me I'm falling short. I'm growing, man. And I think that's so first it's like taking back and setting that standard for ourselves. And then like just understanding that, like, the awareness, like from that acceptance, then allowing that awareness to just guide us non-judgmentally, right? Like, so that I can be aware of how I have a tendency to put other people's needs first, and then conscientiously say, hey, at our wedding, that's not happening. Like, I'm not going to do that. Not that I'm going to be an ass, but it's like, I'm consciously aware of how I want to show up in certain spaces because of the awareness that I've been able to cultivate. And that awareness has only come because of my acceptance of what is, and the courage to look within at my own frameworks and my own personalities and explore that more than any other thing I have ever explored or done in my life. I have never learned more than I have exploring myself.
Dude, I'm pumped for the wedding, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It is. I really, it's
And I'm fully responsible for the level of time I have. I understand that, and I'm ready to meet that challenge, Rob.
yeah, yeah.
What's going through your head, man? You gotta be pumped up.
I am, man. No, it's exciting. I really it's one of those things that's like, because actually, yes, this will be, because this will be released on Sunday. So this will be the last podcast before the wedding, actually, that gets released, and then I'll take a couple more weeks off, I guess,
I'm sending you
for the
off.
honeymoon. And it's a really interesting thing because you know, now the exploration has become very much a dual exploration of two. You know, when I left 4 years ago and I kind of set out on this journey, it very much was a solo exploration. But it's funny because I said there were 3 things that I wanted. You know, one of the things that we do in the program is ask the question, like, what is the ideal? You know, what does your ideal life look like at this moment? You know, and how do we get one step closer to it? And for me at the time, 4 years ago, I was very lost. I was very confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know where I was going or like what things were going to look like. But there were 3 things in the end that I really felt would lead to me having a great life. And it was a really great relationship with my family, like my immediate family, because we always got along, but it wasn't as real and as authentic as it could have been. There was always kind of secrets and always kind of things that got skirted around. And I really wanted that. And I really wanted a partner that I could be myself with and be open with and be honest with and like do life with. And I really wanted a job and a profession that I could like really, you know, share myself and be the truest version of myself, whatever that looked like. And I had no plan for how I was going to get any of those 3 things. It was just kind of like, all right, those are 3 things that I would like to happen. I'm going to explore myself, and, you know, God willing, or inshallah, as they say in Arabic, these things will happen. And 4 years later, I've got a great relationship with my family. My brother is my best friend. I'm about to get married to a woman who has done nothing but, you know, allow me to be who I am and like, and grow that and bounce off, you know, all of these things that I like in the beginning, some of this, I mean, there's some of the stuff that I think, and like a lot of these mystical ideas and these kind of like esoteric philosophies and whatnot that I subscribe to, they're not exactly mainstream education, you know, oh, you're a normal functioning member of society ideals, I feel like. And not that they are inherently that, but they get that tilt, right? In the same way that like socialism is like, oh my God, socialism's so terrible. Yes, because free healthcare and free college and a government that actually like helps you survive and have housing is a really terrible thing. Got it. but you know, I'm like exploring all of these new things for myself that do feel very uncomfortable, and it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you're throwing all this stuff away, you're growing your hair out, you're like challenging all of these things and really exploring. And the whole time, Juliana was just, or after a couple months, her and I started dating again, which is crazy because we dated and we broke up and then we started dating again. And even our whole story is like, you know, you couldn't have written it in a, if you wrote it, they'd be like, no, fuck you. That doesn't make sense. That can't be right. So I think, and I look at my life, it's just like, fuck, man. Like, how cool. I think there's this, I've felt lately, I was always the one that had it all figured out growing up. You can ask any of my friends from high school. I was always the one that had it figured out. I wanted to be a college basketball coach. I was going to be the next Coach K. I was going to be standing on the sidelines at 35 like Brad Stevens in a national championship game. Everybody knew it. Everybody's sitting there, oh, fuck, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I'm like, I already know. No worries here for me. And then all of that went away because I realized that getting everything that I had it all figured out what I wanted. And I got all of it. I got a head coaching job. It was in high school, but I got a head coaching job. I was 22. I had a good girlfriend. I had a good job. I played college basketball. I got it all. And then I wasn't happy. And I didn't have it figured out. And everything was not okay. It was miserable. It was like, what the fuck, man? You all lied to me. Everybody lied to me. You all told me that it was going to be this. And if I did X, Y, and Z, I would be happy and I would be excited and I would feel good about my life. And I did X, Y, and Z and I'm fucking miserable. I can't even be alone with myself. All I do is sit on the phone all the time and play games or go try and do things or like distract myself because I can't be alone with this stuff. Freak out. And now, 4 years later, I got the shit figured out, man. And I have long hair and I sit in a closet and I make $19,000 a year. But I have it figured out. Because each day I wake up and I try and be a little bit more conscious. And each day I wake up and I love everyone and I tell the truth. And each day I wake up and I am surrounded by a great family, both biological and people like you that I've met, and a great partner and a job that at the moment makes no money, but the PGC is how I make the money. The Play Explore Love doesn't make me anything yet, but eventually it might. But I love it. Like, I wake up every day and I do what I want to do with my life. And I think, like, what else can we do, man, but unfold in that way and allow ourselves to just be who we are instead of, being so caught up in who we think we're supposed to be, and just explore it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, have the courage to put the hands on the clay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about it sometimes, like, would I go back if I could, to a time when I wasn't so conscious of everything, I guess, and I wasn't so like aware, because then things always fall on me, I mean, because the ideal that I subscribe to is the God ideal, not Jesus, like God, right? Like this sun is always rising. You are always showing up for everybody. It is ultimate love. It is ultimate compassion, ultimate understanding. And like, that's a hard way to show up every day for me. But like, how else could we? It feels so like it gets easier every day, like it really does, because it becomes so natural. I think it's like hate and lies and deception and jealousy and envy and all of these things, like they all arise from this division and these distinctions and this idea of separateness and this idea that I am my body and my mind and you are your body and your mind, and somehow we are at odds with each other, or maybe we're friends with each other, or maybe we are and then we aren't, and there's all of these things because we're separate. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned on this journey that I've been on, and I think the thing that's really changed everything for me, is finding that place where we're not separate. Trying to touch that place in myself where I am not separate from you, where I'm not separate from anything. And then remembering that. And I think that's the fifth pillar of Play, Explore, Love, is to choose love. Like, it's all love. And when we come from that place of love, it's just, here we are, and I love you, not because I need something from you, or there's some condition of it, or but here we are. And that doesn't mean I have to talk to you, right? Being an explorer doesn't mean you have to go down every road. Being in love doesn't mean that you have to entertain every person or open your door to every person. It's just, you're open to it and you get a little bit better at it every day and you practice it, and I think that's really what, for me, life is just the practice. And the more consciously we practice it, the more enjoyable it is, because it's getting made one way or the other. The pot's getting made. You're going to be the clay or you're going to be the potter.
So, Play, Explore, Love. Do those three concepts, do they always string together, or could they come out separately?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. I feel like this is kind of now turning into an interview of how Play, Explore, Love got started, which is fun. Because I wanted to film something on this, so this is wonderful. I'll just do it on the podcast. But so Play, Explore, Love kind of, it came out of me trying to figure out what I want to do. And when I started to get to the heart of what an ideal life looks like, not my life, but like an ideal, what I believe to be an ideal life. Because one thing that I believe that's really helped me on this journey is that anything that somebody else can do, I can do. That doesn't mean I have to do it. That doesn't mean I'm required to do it. But if they can do it, that doesn't mean it's easy to do it. I'm not like some 7-year-old kid that's like, oh, look, Steph Curry can, shoot these crazy fadeaways. Oh, I can too. No, like that negates the work. But like, if they can work to do it, I can too. And so what I really started to look at was like, what does the ideal life look like? Not what do my frameworks look like? Not what does the world tell me? Not what do my parents tell me? But like, what does it look like? And I read some Buddhist scriptures, and I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I read some Sufi things, and I read, like, I studied different religions and I studied different people, honestly, and I asked a lot of questions, and I've been fortunate to meet a lot of different people. And so I kind of like, tried to distill down what's at the heart of all of it. And what came to me was like, it's three things. It's play, it's explore, and it's love. And at the heart of a great life, to me, as Emerson said, the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. That's how he describes a great man. I think that we become a great man or woman by playing, exploring, and loving. And conversely, if we were a great man or woman, we would consistently play, explore, and love. Now, we have to define for ourselves what play looks like and how we play and how we show up and what we take interest in. I think one thing that's like concrete in that play is that it's enthusiastic, it's joyous, and it's present. What you do, and I think that's why it's like your life is your curriculum, because you can be enthusiastic, joyous, and present wherever you are. Now, that doesn't mean that where you are is a great place or a good place or not something that you want to make better. Like clearly, I was in a place where I didn't like, and I just ran away. But I still had to be, what I learned, this is what I learned in my running, was that at some point, I still had to be here. You know, wherever here is, you can never run away from here. You can run away from there to another there, but you can never run away from here. And I think the start of play is to be here and to, you know, be with it, whatever it is. And then, you know, to this exploration and the exploring of this curiosity, this natural curiosity that we have, and this like courage that comes from this acceptance that it's all okay and that we like, you know, yeah, why not explore? Here we are. One of the Sufi Hazrat Inayat Khan says that what is made for man, man may hold, but he must not be beholden to it. You know, we don't need to run away from these things. Doesn't mean we have to hold everything either, but explore it, play with it, you know? And then at the heart of it all is love. Because love is the only thing that we can all choose and everybody wins. Love is the ultimate Nash equilibrium, you know, in game theory terms. Because if we all chose love, here we are, you know. It's when people choose power or survival or sex. And sometimes they have to. I got robbed one time by a dude who was houseless, or I guess he might have had a house, but he was definitely short on cash in some shady stuff. And he robbed me. Was I mad? Fuck yeah, I was mad. Did I forgive him? Did I understand, hey, you know, he probably wouldn't have done that if he wasn't in that situation? Of course. But at the end of it, at the same time too, it was like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because if I really come from a place of love, and this can't be something in the mind, I think. This is where like talking about these things gets tricky. Because like what I'm explaining, if I had said it 4 years ago, I might have said the same thing, but it's like, you can't just, you have to experience it. You have to like, you know, this is the best I can do to explain it. It's like when we're all love, who robbed who? If he's me and I'm him, you know, he only robs me as long as I'm stuck in my ego. And I'm only mad, the ego Rob is mad at this ego guy for robbing me because his body robbed my body. But if I get into that place that's not my body, you know, he's just taking what's already his, which isn't a justification for taking, right? I don't like don't just go over to your brother and be like, hey, we're the same, that's mine, you know. But it's more of a, I think in all of these practices, I should actually say this because I think this is really important. These are ways for us to live, never ways for us to justify behavior and our behavior for others, or justify abusive behavior, or justify, you know, like, hey, I can just take that from you because we're the same. And like that is a complete bastardization of this idea. The idea is just like all of it in the end turns to dust again. So why be so caught up in it right now? Myself. That doesn't mean if somebody else is super caught in it, you should go up to them and, hey, it's all going to be dust. Don't worry about it, because they are worrying about it. And part of being here and being present to me means being compassionate. And sometimes being compassionate means like Sometimes the compassionate thing is just to listen and to not say things. Sometimes the compassionate thing is to tell somebody the truth, even when it's hard, you know. But only we know that by getting in touch with that intuitive faculty within ourselves. And I think that's the, you know, I mean, that's why I started to play Explore Love. Honestly, it was my life philosophy for a while. And then I just said, okay, this is like, I want to share this with other people. Like, I think other people can benefit from this, because so many people in the world tell us who we're supposed to be, and it doesn't work. And we spend our whole lives being the clay. We spend our whole lives doing what we think other people want us to do. And truly, I don't think that it's because we want to do that, or we don't recognize or notice that there are things in our life that could be better or more in alignment with our truest self. But we do it because we don't have a way out. There's no road. I jumped off the fucking cliff. I was a lunatic. I was a lunatic. I was just like, okay, cool, this isn't it. I'm out. Fucking jump. You know, that was crazy. And most people don't do that. And I created Play, Explore, Love for the people who are like, hey, I know there's something more, but I don't know how to find it, and I need some help. And that's where I come in, you know, not to tell you what your truest self looks like, not to tell you who you're supposed to be or what your life's supposed to look like, or say, hey, you know, if you add XYZ habit to your tool belt, you're going to be so successful and you're going to make all this money and do all these things. There are lots of programs for that. Mm-hmm. This program is not that. This program is going to help you turn a light on who you are, uncover your truest self, and give you the choice to see clearly what, you know, how your life could unfold, and to start to take those steps. And really the choice at the end of it is, you know, to be the potter, and then to shape your life in the ideal, and hopefully to align your life and your practice with this inner ideal and this inner being and this truest self that exists within each of us. Because what could be more of life's purpose than that?
Mm-hmm. So this is the 25th episode, right?
This is the 25th episode.
So far, like, what would you say some of the byproducts have been? So, like, things you've noticed. I know you're about to launch too, but so far, like, what are some of the things you've noticed from doing this?
That I'm not crazy. And I, you know, honestly, yeah, I think that I have learned more about myself in this process than I think I've learned about others. Although there is something that I've learned about others that I'll share in a moment. But the biggest thing I think I've learned is that, like, this stuff actually works. Like, it actually is rooted. I think that I've always kind of had this philosophy or this theory about myself in my life that it could never be me, you know, like I could never be great. Not me. Not in this way. It's always somebody else. You know, I take somebody else's idea and I can teach it, but it, you know, not. And Play, Explore, Love really did come, you know, it's rooted. It's nothing new. It's just a repackaging of what people have said throughout the years and centuries and eons of how to live. And it's just my distillation and my conception of it. But, you know, it is mine. And I think what's really cool for me in sharing Play, Explore, Love and offering it to others and starting this podcast and being more open about my life and really putting myself out there in this way is that it's like, I'm accepting who I am in the crowd completely. Like I am embracing my solitude in the crowd. And that's been really cool. And the thing that's been really heartwarming and really just encouraging and really, I guess, fun to see along the way is that I've met a lot of other people who want to do that too. And I've met a lot of other people who like you are saying, "Hey, yeah, that sounds really nice." You know, I am thankful above anything else that I have the platform and the space and the ability to, and I've had the experiences that I've had that have opened me up in the way to talk to people about these things and to be in this space and to hold space for other people and to share a philosophy and a practice that I really do believe will help you uncover your truest self. It's helped me uncover mine. And um and I think that that's really what the heart of life is about. Everything, it doesn't mean you stop doing other things. It's just take some time to learn about yourself. Um and it's just been really beautiful. You know what, actually, all right, this is actually a probably more direct answer to your question. One of my favorite things in the world, I actually will say that this is no exaggeration. My favorite thing in the world is to watch other people that are truly like themselves and just sharing stories and no mask, no judgment, not trying to be anything other than right here in this moment who they are. It is my favorite thing in the world to do. To be around those people, to be in company with those people, to be in space with those people, to watch those people in those moments. And what has been the most enjoyable for me so far, and what I imagine will continue to be really wonderful, is the moments in these past few years as I've practiced play, explore, love for myself, how many more moments I show up as my truest self and enjoy it way more, but also just in creating that space for others, being able to see others show up in that way. And just like how beautiful it is, because we wear masks because we're scared in so one way or another of what the other person might think when we take them off. And to constantly be able to sit in space with people where there's no mask, and yet here we still are, and it's just love, and we're just playing, and we're just exploring each other on this trip that we're on. How beautiful and how wonderful. And yeah, it doesn't get better than that for me.